I'm probably one of the characters here that's you're asking this question to, because I've for years have tried to make a stronger connection between what's happening in my world as an architect and what's taking place in the academy. And I'm trying to repress a lot of that because I don't want to be in that position anymore. But you come in as the pragmatist, and I have no notion of it. I'm not thinking about it in pragmatic terms. I'm thinking about it just in very real terms of the different types of questions you ask and a kind of a specificity that has to do with the practice of architecture versus it operating just within a conceptual level. And then I'm also interested in a clearer kind of focus having to do with the understanding architecture in a more strategical way, that you understand the usefulness of your facility and how you apply it. But I finally have kind of given up on that role. I don't want to play that role anymore, so I'm kind of trying to, as much as I can, deal with the architecture within a more autonomous world that deals conceptually, instead of getting wrapped up in how am I going to make this into kind of, quote, real work, that you just give in to the a dreamier, more conceptual, more kind of open kind of notion of ideas, and kind of leave that stuff behind. And I think it makes it much more interesting. If you're not building buildings, you're not an architect. So, and I'm not going to get in the argument because we went through that with Levius, if you're an architect to draw, but finally you're building buildings. You're taking responsibility for the physical act of concretizing the world and putting it within literally concrete terms. And that's what we do. And that's the only profession that's responsible for that, right? That we're responsible for city making. And so it has to be connected finally. There's no question. It's unequivocal. There's strategically, there'd have to be some notion that this is the goal, these are the pedagogical goals of an institution, and we can monitor it after X amount of years. We can look at where our students are going and say, yes, it's one of the measures of success. In terms of this success, I've taught my whole life. One of the joys of teaching is you meet one of your students 20 years later, and they're now 40 or 45, and they just got published and they did a beautiful piece of work, and you take great pleasure in possibly being one of the people that contributed to their success. And you have to wait a while in architecture for it to happen, right? I shifted my academic work a decade ago and got interested in urban work because I'm interested in, I see urban problems as the most compelling issues in front of us in the 21st century. And so that's my personal set of interests. And I guess everybody you're going to ask that question to is going to have a very different answer having to do with their own trajectory. But it's going to, as I look at work and looking at people that could contribute to my studio, I am making an assessment if they've reached some critical mass that they can make the leap from the academic work into in the conceptual world into the reality of construction. I think it's also if you looked at the academic world today, you would find a series of questions being asked today, and they'd be asking your question: what is the role of the academy today? Because I think I would have said we're in a transitional time, and there is no single clear role. There's no zeitgeist, all right? It's a question, actually. I'm not going to buy that. No. It's architecture is always in crisis. It's in transition, but I would say that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That means that there's work to do, and that there's openness in the decisions of where architecture goes, or what is the role of an architect in society today, to ask the most basic questions. It allows for, in fact, different interpretations of the questions you're asking me, that allows us to now reconfigure the formation of the problem. What is the problem? Because I think what's most interesting to me for a lot of these juries would be not the solution, it's how are you reforming the problem, which is the way of answering your question, right? Because that's really what's happening in your generation. If you're going to offer something different than my generation, it's not the solution, that's the result of the thing. It's you've reformed the problem and you've reprioritized the interests of architects.